What is going on, my broskies? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. So today, we are going to be going ahead and clearing all of the 10-star difficulty GARP challenges with the brand new Sugo Fest exclusive on Global, which is none other than this man right here, Basil Hawkins. Now, of course, this guy, he's quite a controversial character. A lot of people kind of think that he's not really that great, but I was actually surprised at how easily he was able to clear these 10-star difficulty challenges. Like, I built this team like off the cuff, and I didn't have to change anything from the first time that I built it. It was crazy. It just worked. So anyways, this is the team that we're going ahead and using today. We have some pretty key support units, I would say. We're having the support carrot on Nami and Robin. Nami and Robin, in my opinion, they could probably be replaced with like any other unit, but having that support carrot is really useful against that Kuma fight in the Revolutionary Challenge. Then we've got the Trafalgar Law V2 attached to Corazon, so whenever we launch his special, not only do we get his amazing utility and healing, but we also get his orb boost, which is very useful to have. And then our final character is version 1 Rayleigh attached to Treasure Map Luffy, which just came out. I'm really happy that we have this Treasure Map Luffy. He is such a good character, because remember, the thing is that in order to activate Basil Hawkins super type, actually, now that I think about it, I didn't actually use any of the super types throughout this video, which is kind of interesting, but in order to activate his super type to get that damage reduction, you have to have a reactive support effect that the enemy action will apply to you. So version 1 Rayleigh is an instance of a character that, you know, the enemy applies something to you, you get a support effect to activate, which then in turn allows you to activate the super type ability of Basil Hawkins. But Basil Hawkins is an extremely odd character with all of these different effects that he has in his captain effect. Obviously, he has the stock standard, you know, attack boost, health boost, and that's it. But then he has all these added effects like increasing the enemy's interval timer. It gives you the 50% heal of damage that you took in the previous stage. Cuts enemies' HP by 10% at the end of each turn. Lots of very obscure effects, and having all of these effects on this on this character is just extremely useful. Now, we don't actually run double Basil Hawkins. I didn't actually attempt to try that. I tried it out first of all with a Luffy Law Friend captain, and that got the job done. So that's the way that this team is going to be working. So I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So getting into the video right now, we have obviously the timestamps for the video timeline and down below in the video description if you guys want to skip to a specific clip here. But starting things off with the Doflamingo challenge. Now, as I said, I didn't have to change a single thing with this team since the first time I built it. And I did go into this expecting to use a Luffy and Law Friend captain. I actually did not test if double Hawkins could clear it. I would think, just from thinking about how this team was able to do it, I would probably think that Hawkins would be able to do it, because the really good thing by using double Hawkins in that example would mean that every time you take damage and you move into a new stage, you are going to be essentially fully healing. The only time where you wouldn't be like getting a full heal is if you got despaired, and then you're going to be losing a pretty significant chunk of health from that. So under those circumstances, that would be the only situation where it wouldn't be too good to have something like that. But just having like really good healer characters like Vivi and Rebecca, as we like to often use, for their amazing healing and chain lock, and obviously they're going to be a very good character against the Whitebeard challenge, against the Jozu stage to remove increased defense and Rainbow Shield, which is obviously exceptional. And then having Corazon for his amazing utility plus the healing capabilities is wicked. And then having the Trafalgar Law as a support for the additional orb boost is not required in some instances in this video, as you'll see, but in some other instances where it is nice to have, you know, it is really good to have that additional orb boost right there. And then Nami and Robin were actually just a pick that I really wanted to bring just because of the carrot support, as I mentioned earlier on in the video, but they actually performed really well. And of course, they have that really nice crewmate ability where they can resist paralysis. So against that Rebecca stage, just previous to this one right here, it was obviously really nice to have that. And as you can see, the Hawkins special ability coming through with, you know, a really good chunk of tap timing bonus damage there. And you did notice that when we launched the special as well, he does 500 times his attack to one enemy as well. So, like, even just launching his special ability just for that damage as well is crazy, because that's already, like, over 1 million damage single target. So that's crazy. Unfortunately, it's not fixed damage, which would have been even more crazier, but still, just having that additional piece of damage, especially on content like this, like the 10-star difficulty GARP challenges, to have stuff like that is really good. And of course, with the way that we wanted to build these teams, we wanted to build them all in one typing so that you could clear all 3 of the missions by also getting the Chopper Man mission rewards for doing so. So that's awesome that, you know, Basil Hawkins is able to do that. Of course, there are quite a few Sugo Fest exclusives on the team, but, you know, it does make the job a lot easier, that's for sure. And then we've got Treasure Map Luffy, who... Dude, this Treasure Map Luffy is insane. Like, if you are a free-to-play player and you need some really good free-to-play characters, if you did not farm that previous Treasure Map that just came out, you are definitely missing out. And it's going to be, like, what, another 2 months until you're going to be able to access them? So, yeah, if you guys max that Luffy, be very happy, because he's a really good unit. Especially if you've got Legend Kid as well. Legend Kid, who obviously needs a Supernova character on his team to launch his Super Type special. So, of course, Basil Hawkins could be a really good choice for that. But also Luffy, Zoro, X Drake, Roronoa Zoro. There's a lot of good choices that you could put under Eustace Kid in order for him to activate his Super Type. But I digress. We're here to talk about the man Basil Hawkins. Now, one thing that is quite interesting and a lot of people don't like is his Super Type ability and criteria, which I do definitely agree with. His Super Type criteria is so strange, and I feel like for a lot of people who don't have many characters on their account or are kind of mid-game players, if they do end up pulling Basil Hawkins, it's going to be very difficult for people like that in order to launch his Super Type special, because as we mentioned, it needs to be, you know, that type of support effect that is triggered by the enemy action. So I've already given the example of version 1 Rayleigh attached to the Treasure Map Luffy, which obviously makes a lot of sense, but there's plenty of other choices that you could use instead of that. But Rayleigh is just the predominant example because he's one of the support characters in the game that sees the most amount of play in Treasure Cruise. Speaking more on Basil Hawkins, I really don't know how much I'm going to be using this character moving forward. Like, I know that he has really cool mechanics and he's really good for difficult content, but outside of that, I really don't see myself using him for, like, Colosseums or Clash events that often, unless if, like, you know, it's a lot of quick bosses and, you know, you can kind of build a pretty decent dex team around it. What I can definitely see myself doing, though, is using him as a sub, because he's got a 10-turn cooldown, mind you. 10-turn cooldown for what he does is pretty absurd, I will admit. The fact that you can just, you know, tank up to 50,000 damage, which, depending on your team composition and depending on what the boss does, even if, like, a boss preemptive cuts your health by, like, 99%, for example, that's still going to give you a pretty good amount of damage with Basil Hawkins. And remember, upon activating his special, you still get a really good, like, chunk of damage outputted from his special ability. And then he also will do the tap timing bonus that lasts for 3 turns as well, which is just a really, really cool addition. But anyways, that's going to wrap up this one here against the Doflamingo Challenge, and we'll go ahead and meet back up and talk about the next upcoming team against the Revolutionaries. So now moving into the Revolutionary Army Challenge, moving into this, the thing that was kind of scary before heading into it was kind of wondering how this team is going to defeat a bunch of back-to-back bosses with relatively high HP, and that was the main thing that I was worried about. But, you know, my worries were definitely flattened once I started getting into the content. The stage after Kuma here with Robin was also a really scary one because, you know, we get despaired, which is kind of really tricky to deal with because we are unable to kill all of the surrounding characters on the Robin stage. I could have technically used the Luffy Law special there. I think that actually probably wouldn't have been a terrible idea. You know, use the switch ability to switch into Law, use his special ability to do AoE damage, which would kill the mobs, and actually, at least I think it would kill the mobs? I don't know. They actually have a pretty decent amount of HP. But the main problem is you don't have any matching orbs on this stage. That does kind of suck. And also, I do kind of screw up here on this stage because I do obviously tank the despair, and we actually go ahead and use the Treasure Map Luffy special to give us an orb boost and get rid of that despair. But I actually wanted to stall on Robin just for a little bit, but the fact that we weren't able to stall on Robin means that we needed to take a little bit more damage on the stage with Bello, Betty, and Morley, but it's not really a big deal. We actually still get through it quite fine, because we do use the Nami and Robin special on the Kuma stage just to ensure that we get the KO there, and then obviously if you stall correctly, you'll be able to use the Nami and Robin special again a little bit later on the Bello Betty stage against Morley, because Morley has a lot of HP, and we are just trying to stock up and save the Hawkins special until the final stage. But I do actually kind of screw up though, because the fact that if you stall for 3 turns on the Morley stage, he does that effect where he removes your stored buffs, the accumulate damage effect, and Hawkins is very similar to V2 Katakuri, and you know, it tanks the amount of damage that you've taken, and then it uses that as a multiplier for the amount of tap timing bonus that you get. So if the enemy removes accumulated damage, then Hawkins special does get set back to 0, which makes it pretty useless at that point. So after, you know, that happens, we basically have to tank a little bit of damage to ensure that when we do launch his special, that actually does give us some sort of damage output. Otherwise, you know, it's just going to be a basically pointless special that does a bit of damage and does a very basic orb manipulation. But that's, I mean, if there was one thing that I could change from Basil Hawkins, like if I could literally only get one thing to change, I mean, oh dude, that's really difficult though. But one thing that is quite annoying with his special is that it's not like a full board of orbs. I feel like if you launch his special, it should change all orbs including block into matching. That's what I would like to see. I think that would be a pretty nice addition, and it would still kind of work with Eustace Kid, because if you're running like a full Dex team, remember that when you're using Eustace Kid, he empties Strength, he empties Dex, and then Bomb and Super Bomb slots, and then changes them into Super Bomb for his special ability. So even if, you did have a full board of matching orbs, if you're running a full Dex team, it actually would still work. So yeah, I do think that his special ability should have been the 500 times attack, it should have been the 3-turn tap timing bonus, and then change all orbs including block into matching. That would have made him even better. And obviously his captain ability it's mediocre. I mean, the multiplier is definitely a big downfall there, but of course he makes up for it with having such really strong defensive effects with the interval attack timer getting ticked up, which is pretty awesome, and then also getting the healing every time you enter a new stage. Like, it's just really cool effects that this character has, and as cool as this character is, it's just unfortunate that I really don't see myself using this character too much, because this character is a really cool character, and just overall as a packaged unit, it's just an interesting unit. And I think a lot of people, even if they do pull them, they're never going to use this character just because of, I wouldn't say he's difficult to use. It's just that there are so many other characters that you would prefer to use over Basil Hawkins. Like, I can think of like over 10, 20 legends that I would probably want to use over Basil Hawkins at this point as a captain. But then that's why, going back and saying, like, I do think that as a sub, Basil Hawkins will be a pretty awesome unit in the future for some teams to just kind of cheese content with. And as I said, you can just go ahead and even if the enemy does a lot of damage, as a preemptive attack, that's going to be a pretty good chunk of damage you can get as additional tap timing bonus damage that can last for 3 turns. Pretty awesome, right? And remember that Basil Hawkins does also cut the HP of each enemy by 10% at the end of the turn. So that's the kind of way that this character is structured. In if you are using him as a captain, you're like stalling, you're cutting their health, you're healing back every time you enter a new stage, and then of course every time that you're waiting, you're cutting their health, and then once their health is low enough, you can use his special ability, which does a good chunk of damage by itself, and then you've got tap timing to just chip away at the enemy and just kind of go through the motions and chip away at a large enemy HP pool, and that's the kind of way that this guy is structured. But personally, yeah, I don't really know how often I'm going to use this guy. But again, a very interesting super type special that, as I said, I didn't actually use the entire time through playing through this content, which, kind of makes me think that I probably wasn't using the character as intended. I kind of just, brute force my way through the content, even though we just kind of took our time with it. We went at our own pace and didn't try and speed through it and clear it with like high damage output. But we were still able to get through it, which is still pretty interesting to see. But anyways, that's Basil Hawkins taking on the Revolutionary Army Challenge, which again, as I said, I was kind of scared heading into this one, but no problems whatsoever. It was actually pretty awesome. So I guess we'll pick things up once again once we get to the Whitebeard Challenge. And then the final clip of this video is going to be where we are going to be up against the Whitebeard challenge. Now, the Whitebeard challenge was actually, again, pretty easy. Like, all of these challenges were actually easy. It's just a matter of, you know, activating specials at the right time and ensuring that you're tanking damage where appropriate. And it's kind of interesting because, you know, typically the stage with Ezo is like the most frightening stage on this challenge, because, you know, Fossa, if he's on a low cooldown, that's going to be the end of a lot of people's runs. But funnily enough, even with, you know, entering the stage against Fossa, and he's on a 2-turn cooldown, which in a lot of cases is going to be a bit of a problem, for Basil Hawkins, it's not really going to be that bad. And again, having some other really powerful dual units, for example, like Vivi and Rebecca, to give us that chain lock, and then also having access to Luffy and Law for their switch ability to either have Law up to get us a little bit of health back, or having Luffy up to get just more damage output with our characters because he's a 3.5 captain instead. You know, we're still able to get through it. And another really cool thing as well is that Basil Hawkins does have recovery bind resistance, and I think a couple of characters on this team actually do, but it means that this guy right here, Atmos, who inflicts 10 turns of recovery bind every single turn, it's actually not a problem. We don't have to focus in on him. He's not a priority target on that stage. So that's really cool. Definitely taking out Rakuyo is the big target there, because after the second turn of attacks, he starts blowing away characters, which is obviously a big problem. But yeah, this stage right here, you can see that, you know, typically on a 2-turn cooldown, Foss is going to be quite intimidating. But the fact that we have Basil Hawkins up, we can increase their attack interval so that, yeah, he's on a 3-turn now. And with all of our switch abilities and, you know, stocking up orbs from the previous stage, we are actually able to take down the Ezo and the Speed Jiru pretty easily, actually. And then, of course, we are just going to be tanking a hit because, look, we have full HP and we have a lot of HP to play with. So yeah, I just decided that it would be a pretty good idea to just tank a hit and then stall 3 additional turns, because again, because we have Corazon in our team, he's going to be very essential for taking out the debuffs on the Vista and Marco stage. Always really nice to have a character that can remove both, or all of attack down, paralysis, and chain lock all in one character. I was kind of tempted to put the rare recruit, I can't remember, I think it's X-Drake. Yeah, he removes the chain lock debuff, and I was really tempted to put him as a support, or maybe try and fit in like a Cracker support character on the team, but either way, just having Corazon makes it a lot easier, because not only does he remove the debuffs, the healing, as we've mentioned, the healing is very, very nice, so you can just tank more hits, which in turn levels up the special of Basil Hawkins. So all these characters work really well together here. And another really cool thing as well is slot bind resistance is a really nice effect that Basil Hawkins also has access to. So, you know, even though we reach the final stage and, you know, our top and bottom row are inflicted with slot bind, Luffy Law with their switch effect can remove the slot bind on themselves, which is good. And yeah, it's all just pretty nice. Everything just works, man. So anyways, I'll leave you guys with the rest of this video. I'm not really too sure if I'm going to be uploading any more Basil Hawkins videos moving forward, but, you know, if I see any piece of content where I think Basil Hawkins will be a pretty decent option, or an optimal piece of content for Basil Hawkins, you know, I might go ahead and upload a video for you guys. But all I'm saying is don't expect too many clips of Basil Hawkins on the YouTube channel. But he's been a bunch of fun. I'm not gonna lie, he has actually been a bunch of fun to use so far, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. And if you guys did enjoy it, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But other than that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.
さすがだ。想像のはるか上を行く。